I do think about, have I lived a meaningful life? Have I done what I need to do to express myself artistically? And then more importantly, have I done what I need to do with my children, with my wife, with my friends? Have I lived a decent life,
Reiner says that many aging baby boomers have similar thoughts, and as a result, they put pen to paper.
There's a good and bad to lists. One is, things to aspire to, goals, and things you'd like to reach. Another is, what if I don't make them all? What if what if in the middle of this conversation I drop dead? I don't do all the things I was supposed to do. That's the downside of it, of the list.
From the outside, it looked like pure TV wizardry was popping off in real time. Carroll O'Connor and Rob Reiner were planted at the center of a cultural explosion, delivering scenes that had all of America talking. But behind those blazing studio lights, behind the roaring applause, and miles away from that canned laugh track, their relationship was secretly crumbling. What looked like electric chemistry on screen was actually powered by straight resentment, clashing worldviews, and a personal divide growing so wide it nearly ripped the whole set to shreds. Carroll O'Connor and Rob Reiner seemed like the perfect TV contrast on All in the Family. Well, but that contrast didn't stay locked in the script. It leaked into real life mad quick. And the hatred between them didn't cook slow. It exploded in ways the audience never peeped. For years, fans figured the two cats were tight, connected by endless hours, shared glory, and the weight of carrying a revolutionary show. That assumption was dead wrong from the jump.
When he was stuck creatively, he would come into the room, in my room in the house, and he would say, "Has anything interesting happened to you lately?" So I knew he was stuck. He was looking for something to do. But I grew up.
Way before the cameras even started rolling on episode 1, the bond between O'Connor and Reiner had already started splitting. And once filming kicked off, those splits morphed into straight-up ruptures. By the time All in the Families dropped in January 1971, Carroll O'Connor was already a seasoned vet. He had decades grinding across theater, film, and television, and he treated his craft like religion. To him, acting wasn't about standing on soapboxes or lecturing crowds. It was about subtlety, discipline, and razor-sharp execution. Every pause carried meaning, every line packed weight. The character dominated everything, no exceptions. Rob Reiner, on the flip side, rolled into the show from a totally different universe. He was younger, loud about his politics, ideologically charged, and molded by the cultural earthquakes of the late 1960s. To Reiner, All in the Family wasn't just entertainment. It was ammunition, a platform, a weapon to blast outdated thinking straight in the face. His character, Michael Meathead Stivish, wasn't just Archie Bunker's son-in-law dropping punchlines. He was crafted as Archie's ideological nemesis, the obvious counter to everything Archie represented. And that ideological war didn't stay on paper. It marched straight into rehearsals. The real explosion came early during table reads and practice runs. Carroll O'Connor clocked something that immediately set him off. Reiner didn't wait for the director's cues. He cut into scenes. He disputed line deliveries. He openly challenged how moments were being staged. To O'Connor, this wasn't collaboration. It was straight warfare. Multiple times, rehearsals ground to a halt because Reiner kept pushing that Archie needed to be shown as obviously wrong. Not nuanced, not complex, and definitely not given any humanity. He wanted the message blasting loud with zero ambiguity. That rubbed O'Connor completely wrong. He believed Reiner wasn't just playing the script, he was attempting to hijack it. In O'Connor's view, Reiner was acting like the character police, transforming performance into a morality sermon. The tension climbed so high that O'Connor would freeze mid-rehearsal, lock eyes directly on Reiner, and flat-out refuse to proceed until the room settled down.
Yeah. What do you regret?
What do I regret? Well, I regret that I didn't give more time in my life to writing. I was very much drawn to being a writer. I won't say that I should have been a writer. I think I should have been what I have been, but I think I'm a good writer with things to say, and I didn't try enough to get the stuff out.
The message landed clear and brutal. You don't control this operation. From that moment forward, something went ice cold between them. Respect evaporated. Patience vanished. What kicked off as creative friction flipped personal lightning fast. Down the line, O'Connor would break it down in raw terms. Reiner didn't move like a fellow performer. He moved like a courtroom judge. In O'Connor's mind, Reiner was blurring the lines between character work and actual life. He wasn't just beefing with Archie Bunker anymore. He was beefing with Carroll O'Connor directly. And that was a boundary O'Connor never forgot getting crossed. As All in the Family blew up into America's highest-rated sitcom, the success didn't calm the storm. It made everything worse. Behind the laughs, behind the monster ratings, and behind all those shiny awards, the hostility just kept intensifying. Show mastermind. Norman Lear quickly realized the friction between his two stars wasn't cooling down with time. If anything, it was heating up. The same raw energy making the show magnetic on screen was generating absolute chaos backstage. What viewers ate up as sharp banter and cultural combat was actually fueled by genuine resentment, ego battles, and two men who fundamentally disagreed on what the show was supposed to accomplish. And as the seasons piled up, so did the bitterness, building the foundation for years of silent fury lurking behind America's favorite family sitcom. As the show kept shattering ratings records, Norman Lear eventually came clean that the ideological warfare driving All in the Family didn't stay contained on script pages. It tracked the actors onto the soundstage, seeped into rehearsals, and sometimes got so thick that actual production slowed to a crawl. What appeared like razor-sharp TV debate was actually a daily grind of tension that never properly chilled.
Listen, friends, it's one thing to play a bigot on TV, and it's quite another thing to be a bigot in real life.
Gene Stapleton, who brought Edith Bunker to life, quietly confirmed just how uncomfortable things got between Carol O'Connor and Rob Reiner. She painted the vibe as controlled but strained, that type of tension you sense without anybody even raising volume. According to her observations, O'Connor had physical tells whenever Reiner stepped outside the script boundaries. When Reiner improvised or challenged a scene's direction, O'Connor would lean back in his seat, cross his arms tight, and completely cut eye contact. These weren't random habits. They were calculated resistance moves. O'Connor was freezing Reiner out live, right in front of the whole crew without dropping a single word. Reiner, though, wasn't folding. He consistently questioned scenes and openly argued that Archie Bunker's prejudice was getting watered down too much. In his perspective, Archie had to get exposed, corrected, and shut down clearly every single episode. He believed any gray area weakened the message, and he fought for crystal clarity no matter what. O'Connor fought back just as fierce. He believed Archie's strength came from being relatable, not getting destroyed. To him, Archie wasn't designed to get crushed. He was designed to mirror uncomfortable realities about actual people. Stripping that away, in O'Connor's eyes, reduced the character to a caricature instead of a reflection. During one especially heated run-through, after Reiner questioned O'Connor's performance yet again, O'Connor killed the scene dead. He didn't escalate his voice. He didn't debate. He simply turned his head toward Lear and said absolutely zero. The silence hung heavy. Cameras stayed rolling, crew members locked in place. Nobody budged. Lear later confessed that moment forced him to jump in and take back control of the set.
Please.
Let me ask you something about Archie Bunker. Is he a real person? Is he one man that you knew? Is he a lot of people that you've met, or have you just created
That's
him?
right. He's a lot of people. He's a lot of people that I've met. He has really nothing to do with my own personal life, but he is. See, I'm an actor of the mirror up to life school. You know that Hamlet said to the players, "Hold as it were the mirror up to life." I'm really a reporter. You know what that is.
I think so.
Without uttering a syllable, O'Connor had established a firm boundary, and everybody caught it. From O'Connor's angle, Reiner's relentless ideological pressure left him feeling boxed in. While Reiner thought he was delivering moral clarity, O'Connor experienced it as personal attack. He felt Reiner wasn't performing alongside him. He was performing against him. That conviction never shifted. Years later, O'Connor unpacked his resentment in one of his most infamous statements, declaring straight up that Rob always thought he was smarter than everyone else. To O'Connor, that wasn't just cockiness. It was core disrespect for the craft itself. In his mind, Reiner didn't respect performance. He turned it into a weapon. And for O'Connor, that was beyond forgiveness. What intensified everything was the mounting praise Reiner kept collecting outside the studio. Critics constantly painted Michael Stevick as the voice of logic, while Archie Bunker got labeled as the roadblock to progress. O'Connor caught those reviews. He internalized them deep. To him, Reiner wasn't just winning arguments on screen, he was winning them in the culture, and O'Connor felt the price was his character's humanity getting stripped away layer by layer. Late in his life, O'Connor finally hit his limit during an interview. Without hesitation, he dropped a line that permanently closed the book on their relationship. "I've worked with many people I couldn't stand, but Rob topped them all." That wasn't bitterness talking, it was finality. The wild part? All in the Family became iconic, specifically because the beef was authentic. The father and son-in-law clashes felt dangerous because they actually were. The anger hit hard because it wasn't manufactured, it was genuinely lived. The audience cracked up, the network threw parties, the awards kept stacking, and every single day, two men stepped onto the same set, knowing they couldn't stand each other. When the applause died down and the cameras finally powered off, the question wasn't whether the beef had been real, It was whether it could survive without viewers watching. That answer dropped fast. The feud didn't wrap with the final episode. When All in the Family closed shop in 1979, plenty of folks inside CBS quietly hoped distance would cool the hostility between Carol O'Connor and Rob Reiner. But the reality was already obvious. The resentment had outlasted the show itself. The feud didn't end when the show did. It just lost its spectators. When All in the Family wrapped, Carol O'Connor rolled straight into Archie Bunker's place, keeping the character alive without missing a beat. Off camera, something switched up. People around him noticed he seemed looser, more relaxed, more at peace now that one specific presence was gone. That shift didn't slip past Jean Stapleton. She later mentioned privately that O'Connor seemed more comfortable in this next chapter. The pressure that used to fill the space had disappeared, at least on the surface. But there was one obvious exception. Whenever Rob Reiner's name dropped, O'Connor's whole energy went rigid instantly. Whatever rage had once blazed openly didn't vanish. It just transformed. It got quieter, icier, and more locked in. By the early 1980s, the two men were operating in completely separate Hollywood dimensions, divided by careers, social circles, and priorities. O'Connor dove fully into dramatic television, determined to flip how the public viewed him. That hustle paid off years later when he reinvented his image with In the Heat of the Night in 1988. The role displayed a different dimension of him, measured, stern, and commanding, completely removed from Archie Bunker's living room chaos. Reiner, meanwhile, was constructing something brand new for himself. He shifted behind the camera and rapidly earned industry props as a director. His work on This Is Spinal Tap in 1984 and Stand By Me in 1986 proved he wasn't just talent in front of the lens. He was a creative powerhouse in his own lane. Their professional roads never intersected again. No reunion specials, no shared platforms, no late-life reconciliation scenes. But even with all that distance, the bitterness tagged along. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, O'Connor never softened his position in interviews. He rejected any suggestion that their feud had been blown out of proportion or misread. When questioned about it, he dismissed the phrase creative differences, insisting that label minimized what he felt was ongoing personal disrespect. To O'Connor, this wasn't about politics or acting approaches. It was about lines that shouldn't be crossed. He believed Reiner crossed them over and over, and time did nothing to alter that perspective. Reiner chose the opposite strategy. He stayed basically silent. He never challenged O'Connor's account of events. He never attempted to publicly flip the narrative or provide his own detailed breakdown. People close to Reiner describe the silence as strategic. From their view, Reiner had moved forward professionally and emotionally. He locked in on his work, his career, and the future. Whatever went down on that set got left behind, untouched and unaddressed. They never publicly recognized each other's achievements. No compliments, no criticisms, just dead air. The conflict stayed frozen solid, unresolved, and static, waiting for nothing and heading nowhere. Then time delivered its final gut punch. When Carol O'Connor passed away on June 21, 2001, at 76 years old, Hollywood hit pause to reflect. Networks replayed All in the Family, critics revisited Archie Bunker's legacy, and argued about his lasting influence on television. Former colleagues spoke about O'Connor's work ethic, brilliance, and moral conviction. The industry honored him as a titan, a man who transformed what television comedy could accomplish. One voice, though, stayed noticeably measured. Rob Reiner didn't step forward with any public gesture of reconciliation. There was no move to reopen old wounds or rewrite history. He offered no extended reflection on their turbulent years together beyond acknowledging O'Connor's significance to television history. And in that silence, the story concluded exactly how it existed: unresolved, messy, and loaded with things never spoken. The feud didn't explode, it didn't fade. It simply remained exactly where it landed, frozen solid long after the laughter stopped. What Rob Reiner ultimately delivered was professional acknowledgement and nothing more. He didn't try rewriting history. He didn't challenge Carol O'Connor's decades-long hostility. He didn't smooth the rough edges or reshape the past. Instead, Reiner let O'Connor's words stand exactly as they were: sharp, definitive, and completely unresolved. That restraint carried more weight than it appeared at the time. By keeping quiet, Reiner refused to transform a deeply personal split into public spectacle. He didn't defend himself, and he didn't amp up the narrative. In doing that, he left the historical record untouched, letting history reflect the conflict exactly as it existed: uncomfortable, lopsided, and incomplete. By the time O'Connor passed, his life had already been scarred by massive personal tragedy. The most crushing loss arrived in 1995 when his son Hugh passed away, a moment that permanently altered O'Connor's universe. That loss drove him toward activism, empathy, and deeper involvement with issues surrounding mental health and support. Friends and colleagues noted how that tragedy softened many dimensions of O'Connor's public persona. He got more contemplative, more purpose-driven, and more conscious of how much words could hurt. Yet even through that transformation, one thing stayed unchanged: his feelings toward Reiner. There was no late-life reconsideration, no gentler language, no quiet admission that time might have shifted perspective. The silence between them had calcified into permanence, solid as concrete. Reiner, meanwhile, kept pushing forward. His career expanded, his impact grew, and his legacy evolved way beyond his role on All in the Family. Yet, when it came to O'Connor, Reiner barely spoke whatsoever. There were no lengthy reflections, no interviews revisiting the feud, and no attempts to provide balance to the narrative. What remained was a clean split. Not loud, not theatrical, but absolute. O'Connor left behind a track record that required zero clarification. He said exactly what he meant while he was breathing, and he never walked it back. That's what makes this story so disturbing. In a culture obsessed with closure, apologies, and deathbed reconciliations, this feud delivered none of that. There was no final conversation, no symbolic peace offering, no mutual understanding achieved at the end. Instead, it leaves behind a harder reality. Some conflicts don't get resolved. They don't mature into wisdom or disappear with age. They simply outlive the people who carried them. The silence became the closing statement, and that silence still reverberates whenever All in the Family gets replayed, whenever Archie Bunker's legacy gets debated, and whenever Michael Stivick's role as the voice of change gets revisited. So here's the question that sticks long after the credits finish rolling. Was Carol O'Connor holding the line for artistic integrity, defending the craft from getting reduced to a lecture? Or did personal ego morph a professional disagreement into a lifelong feud that never healed? And what about Rob Reiner's silence? Was it dignity, refusing to reignite an old wound, or was it evasion, declining to engage with a painful chapter that never truly closed? That's where you step in, drop your perspective in the comments, and make your voice count. If stories like this yank back the curtain and expose a side of Hollywood you've never witnessed before, make sure you smash that like button. Share it with someone who's obsessed with classic TV drama, and subscribe so you don't miss what's dropping next. We've got another story loaded up on your screen right now. Even more celebrity beef, buried history, and backstage reality waiting for you. Click into that next video and I'll catch you there.